Hi class, how are you today? Awkward silence. Okay then. The learning target for today is to solve literal equations and formulas for a specific variable. So these will be equations like we've been dealing with before, but one major change: most of what's going to be in the equations are variables. We're going to have multiple variables, multiple different letters in the equations, and we'll have to solve for one of them. It'll look a little weird at first, but this is actually not that bad. So let's get started. Alright, let's start with this equation. We have A equals 1/2 BH. You may recognize this equation. It's area equals 1/2 times base times height. That's the area of a triangle. This is a formula. So you may look at this equation and think, what do I have to do? Lots of different variables, kind of already looks like it's solved. Here's where things get a little different. In this equation, I want you to solve for h. So it's currently solved for a, but I want you to solve for h. So I want you to get h by itself. Okay? So first thing you would do is you want to get rid of this 1/2 here. So remember, whenever you see a fraction in a problem, multiply everything in the equation by the denominator. So multiply everything by 2. And that's using the multiplication property of equality. Then we use the distributive property. Say 2 times a is 2a. And then 2 is multiplying by everything here. 1/2 BH is all one term because they're all multiplying. It's only separate terms if they're adding or subtracting. So this is all one term. So the 2 multiplies by the 1/2 and they cancel to just leave the BH. So the BH stays by itself. BH. Now, we need to solve for h. So how do we get h by itself? Well, just like any normal equation, we need to undo what's happening to it. So what is happening to h? It's being multiplied by b. So if h is being multiplied by b, we need to do the opposite and divide by b. So we'll take 2a and divide by b, and then that's equal to bh divided by b. Division property of equality. So on the left, well, you might say 2a over b. How do we reduce that? How do we do that? You don't. You just leave it. 2a over b. And on the right, the b's will end up canceling each other out because you're dividing something by itself. So you're left with just h. So 2a over b equals h, or h equals 2a over b. And that's after we simplified. So that's the first example of this. We're having pretty much just all letters and undoing stuff, but it's all letters. It may seem confusing at first, but actually once you get into doing a bunch of these are actually really easy because you're not having to think what's this number times this number divided by this number. You're just putting everything together. Alright, let's do another example. Alright, so in this problem we have 4x minus 3y equals 15. And I want you to solve for y. So I want you to get y so it's completely by itself. So first, you need to take this 4x here and bring it to the other side. It's a positive 4x, so we need to subtract it. So we say 4x minus 3y minus 4x equals 15 minus 4x. Using the subtraction property of equality. So then we combine like terms, and that gives us negative 3y, because that negative was right there, so it stays there, equals 15 minus 4x. Can't combine those at all. It stays 15 minus 4x. Now, we need to divide this negative 3 out, because it's multiplying. So we have to take negative 3y and divide by negative 3. Just a note, on the other side, the 15 minus 4x, we have to divide each of those by negative 3. So we have to say 15 divided by negative 3 and minus 4x divided by negative 3. So just like multiplying, you had to multiply every term. With dividing, you have to divide every term. And that's using the division property of equality. So then, from there, we simplify. So again, like usual, the negative 3's both cancel to just leave y equals, and then we have 15 divided by negative 3 is going to be negative 5, and then minus 4x divided by negative 3. The negatives cancel to make this a plus, and then for this, I'm not big on how you write it. The way I would write it would be 4/3 x. I would also take 4x over 3. So this is your answer right here. Didn't mean to write that line. So that's your answer. I would also accept written separately y equals 4/3 x minus 5. Just putting the x out at the beginning. If you do that, just make sure to write the property. It's the commutative property of addition. We don't use that much in equations, but that's what you did. You switched the order. So, commutative property of addition. Alright, that's it for this problem right here. Not the lesson. Still got a little bit more to go. One note I want to make. Notice I have not been putting these in set notation. You don't have to put the literal equations in set notation. I won't have you do that, so don't worry about that. Alright, let's go to the next problem. So in this problem, I give you h times I plus j equals k. So usually what we think is we see something multiplying by parentheses and we think, use the distributive property. So that could work. If you want to do it that way, be my guest. But here's an even simpler way to do this problem. So this works best with literal equations, not as much with the other equations, but they still work in regular equations too if you want to do this in the future. So, we need to solve for I. So we need to get I by itself. So first thing we want to get rid of is this h multiplying I and j. So it's multiplying, so we want to do the opposite and divide. So we take the h times I plus j, and we divide by h. And then we do that on the other side too. So k divided by h. And that's the division property of equality. On the left side, the h's just cancel each other out to leave I plus j, and you don't have to put the parentheses anymore. And on the right side, we have k over h. You can just leave it as a fraction like that, k over h. There's nothing more you can do with that. So that was simplifying. Then from there, we have I plus j. So we need to get rid of this j because we want to solve for I. So it's adding, j is adding to I, so we need to subtract both sides by j. So we say I plus j minus j is equal to k over h minus j. And that's going to be the subtraction property of equality. And so the j's cancel to leave just I. And on the right side, we just put what's there. K over h minus j. And that's your answer. Once you get a variable completely by itself, like I is by itself, nothing else on that side of the equal sign, then you're done. So this is just good to be able to move formulas around to get it so you're figuring out, like if you want a different part of the formula, how you can do it. In the upper level maths, we do stuff like this all the time, so it's good to get in the hang of it. So one more problem. Alright, so in this problem, it's the same exact problem we had before, except I want you to solve for h this time. So instead of solving for I want you to solve for h. So this is a little bit different. So in this problem, we have h, which we want to solve for, is being multiplied by I plus j. And since it's all in parentheses, we can just say, well, we look at what's multiplying h, the I plus j, and we want to get rid of that. We want to undo that multiplication. Undoing multiplication means we divide. So we need to divide both sides. Those are still parentheses. Make it look a little nicer. So we need to divide both sides by what's multiplying h, the I plus j. But we need to do it to both sides of the equation, so we take k and divide that by I plus j. And this is using the division property of equality, because that's what we just did. We divided both sides. So, division property of equality. Now on the left side, the I plus j was divided by I plus j. These two are exactly the same. So you're dividing something by itself, they just cancel each other out. So on the left side, all you have is h. And on the right side, we have this, k over I plus j. Again, it looks very messy. It looks like it's such a difficult problem, except you're done now. That's it. You've just h equals k over I plus j, and you're done. That's it. That easy. So it makes it look like it's so difficult, but in all reality, it's actually really easy once you think about it. Alright, that's it for this lesson today. Please, once again, please make sure you take notes on everything, the entire video, and right now, take a picture of your notes, submit them to eBackpack. Have a good night.